Hello, everybody, and welcome to the webinar today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you're curious and you've got your email mojo on because we're going to look at how to build emails in eMarketeer and how to discover maybe some of the lesser known secrets of the email editor in eMarketeer. So I'll go ahead and share my slides there. You should be seeing my screen and slides. Hopefully everything is in order. So as mentioned, we're going to look at how to create emails and newsletters in eMarketeer from scratch, basically. So we'll be taking you through everything. My name is Klaus, and I'm going to be the presenter and inspirator, if that's a word, today. I've been with eMarketeer for more than 10 years, but like you guys, I'm a user, I'm a marketer. I am not a technician, so I like it when things are easy and intuitive, and that's what I hope to be able to show you guys as well today. Some practicalities first. We're going to be around an hour on the webinar, at least that's the schedule, depending on how many questions you guys have. I can certainly stay on for a little longer, and for you guys that know me, I can keep talking on and on. But an hour is what we have in the agenda today, or the calendar. You'll all be muted, but I do encourage you to use the questions box in the right-hand side of your screen to send me your questions, comments, observations, thoughts during the webinar. I will do my best to include them as we go, and certainly at the Q&A session, try to see if I have any unanswered questions there. If there are too many questions, I want to make sure that I get back to you on email after the webinar. All questions are anonymous, so other participants can't see what you're asking, so don't be shy at all. I'm recording the session today, so you'll get a recording and the slides and everything afterwards. So don't worry about screen grabbing or noting down. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. You'll get everything later today when the recording is ready. So as mentioned, the focus today is really going to be hands-on on how to build and customize email in eMarketeer. So most likely you're either pretty new to eMarketeer or you just want to know more in detail about the editor that we have in eMarketeer. If you are a long-time user and is really experienced in everything editing content in eMarketeer, there may be a lot of redundant content here, but I'm sure there'll be some new things that you can uncover here as well. At least that's what I hope. So that's the order of the day. Fair disclaimer, I am no designer. So what we'll be looking at today is not so much the actual design process and design trends. We had another webinar just a few weeks ago. I can share the link as well to that webinar on email design trends that really talk about all of the different trends that are going on right now. This is more hands-on, how do you do things in the eMarketeer editor. So as you know, eMarketeer is a platform with many different tools, and obviously what we'll be looking at today is the email building. But keep in mind that the editor that we're using for emails is the same editor that you'll be using for everything else in eMarketeer. So if you know how to do the stuff that we're looking at today, and I guarantee that you will be able to, you can also build landing pages and mobile apps and forms and whatnot in eMarketeer. So just think about what you learned today in the email editor, you can start using tomorrow building a mobile app, because it's exactly the same thing. So you'll be able to reuse a lot of the stuff that we're looking at today. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right into the to the subject today of how to create and customize your emails in eMarketeer using the different tools that are available to you in the content editor. So first and foremost, let's jump into the editor, and obviously what you need to start from the start is to add a new email to your campaign. So just let's dig into eMarketeer here, where we'll spend most of our time, and create a new email. We're in a campaign for this purpose. It's called Building Emails Webinar. I thought that was kind of topical. And here I'm going to add an email, and you've got a few fields to fill out first. You've got to give it a name, which is basically the name that you will be seeing in eMarketeer. And I have this thing with speaking and typing at the same time, which you will see is always pretty interesting. Then you have the subject line, is what obviously your recipient will see. You have the from name, the sender address, You have your authenticated domains here. If you don't have an authenticated domain, please check out this link. You'll learn all about how to authenticate your domain so your emails are really coming from your domain. Better for your recipients, better for your deliverability and the overall email safety. You can add another reply to address if you don't want the from address and the reply to address to be the same. And then you've got subscription categories. This one's pretty important actually, but maybe you're overlooking it. You can create different categories that your recipients can subscribe to or unsubscribe to, which means that if you have a lot of different email types like newsletters, alerts, offers, invitations, and you want your recipients to be able to unsubscribe from some categories instead of just revoking their permission for you to send to them at all, you can do that by creating categories and having subscription categories that you do your send outs in. So when people unsubscribe, they will unsubscribe from a category rather than from everything. Of course, they can unsubscribe from everything if they want to, but subscriptions is a neat way of kind of making your communications a little bit more focused and tailored to what they want to receive from you. I'm going to go with newsletters on this one. Then underneath you have the template gallery. So on the My Templates tab will be the templates that you have customized and saved as your templates. So they will be available in your account. So typically you would have your newsletters, your invitation and whatnot templates there that are custom designed to you. On the layouts tab and the other tabs here, you have the templates that are available in the eMarketeer gallery. Straight out of the box here, and they can be used and completely customized as well, so they're good starting points for design. Just a small warning, if you will, there's an option down here called Start from Scratch, no template. Typically, many people go there because they don't want to have a template. They want to really start from a blank sheet of paper. But to do so, you really need to be a template developer. So this is more of an advanced feature. So if you go there and it's pretty empty, it really is. All of the blocks have to be built. So just a fair warning there. Start from one of the templates or reach out to our consultants in the chat to have them help you get started on a template. Okay, so we'll just nick a template here, just a few words on this. All of the ones with the R behind them, they're responsive, which means that they automatically adapt to mobile and tablets and computer screens, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say create email, and we are in the email editor. The first thing you'll notice in the editor is it's divided into different sections. You've got the left panel over here where you typically manage your settings. You can share your work that you're doing, and you can edit the sender information. So that's the first piece we will be focusing on. This is the left panel over here. You can add more content to your email. Again, a template is just a selection of blocks that are put together. You can add more, you can delete the stuff you don't need, obviously, to build exactly the email that you need. So adding content blocks, removing and editing them there is possible. Then you have some tools. You can go and click the colors and fonts, which will bring up the style sheet over here for the entire email. So all color codes, fonts, line heights, and so on are all listed here in the style sheet, if you will, of the email, and you can go ahead and edit that. We'll get back to how you manage styles a little bit later. Then you have developer mode. This is probably more on the advanced topic. So if you know HTML and CSS, you can open developer mode to dive into the HTML behind the email template and really modify the code behind the email. Now, again, if you're not a techie or really good at HTML, that's probably not an area where you'll be spending much time, but it's definitely possible if you have a developer rights on your user profile. You can also share work in progress, which is actually really neat. That means that I can get a URL for the work that I'm currently doing. So if I'm copying this and opening a new tab in my browser, I can just paste in this URL and it will give me a live preview of how my email currently looks, which means that I don't have to send test emails back and forth to my colleagues to have them kind of proofread or have a say on the design of the email that I'm working on. Every time I do a change and they go here and update, this will always reflect what I'm working on in eMarketeer. So that's pretty useful, share work in progress over there. And then you've got the sender information, the from name, from address, reply to address. These were the settings I created when I added the email, but you can go ahead and edit them here as well. And what's neat in here as well is you've got this little icon here. which is the personalization icon. Every time you see this icon, it means that you can add personalization to the text, basically merging in information you have about the recipient of the email. So if I wanted to say, hi, first name in the subject line, I can just click this guy, pick the first name from my contact card, and that would merge into the email subject field. So think about how you can use personalization, not only maybe in the text here, but also in the subject line, maybe in the sender information, places where you will just help your email be highlighted and spring to attention for the recipient there. And again, you can choose the category as well. So that's the left panel for you, everything that has to do with settings and sender information, and notably sharing the work that you're currently doing in eMarketeer. Then in the middle, you have the preview panel. This is where you can drag and drop the content blocks around. You can also add and delete blocks, and you can look at how your email performs on mobile, tablet, and desktops. So basically checking out the responsiveness of the design that you're currently working on. So the preview panel is obviously the centerpiece here, which is the biggest piece where you see how your email will look when it arrives with your recipients. The panel over here can be dragged, and as I mentioned, the responsiveness of the email can be checked. So if you just narrow the panel down, you can see that it jumps from this view to this view. Now you're looking at the tablet view of the email, and finally the mobile preview of the email. Pardon. This means that you can see how will this email look when it ends up on a mobile phone. You can see that columns, they are collapsed, two columns are collapsed into single columns, the buttons span all the way across for easier access, and so on. So there's a lot of stuff going on when you go into the responsive mode. So looking at how your email will end up on a mobile phone versus a desktop is pretty easy. You just resize the preview panel. As mentioned, the preview panel is also where you can drag and drop columns around. So you'll see when you mouse over a content block that the toolbar here is shown. If you grab the toolbar and pull the block, you can simply drag and drop your blocks around in your email where you need them to be. Obviously, if there are blocks you don't need, you can just go ahead and delete them by clicking the delete icon here. It will go away, and you are good to go. Don't worry about deleting blocks in here. You can always add blocks back later. It's not, you don't delete anything you can't put back if you needed that block anyway. Adding blocks is pretty easy as well. You just click the plus sign and you get the block library over here. I'll go into more detail on the block capabilities and what blocks you have available as well. So that's the preview panel. Basically, how does my email look when it arrives in the inbox there? Then on the right-hand side, we have the edit panel. The edit panel changes depending on which block you're editing or you're double-clicking on to get to your content. And this is where you have some block settings up at the top, and you can edit the content of that specific block that you're looking on. So that is the right-hand panel. Over here, let's have a look. So if I double click my text here to edit, you'll see that the content block over here of the edit panel springs to life. And here I have some different settings. The settings, they vary a little bit depending on which block you're looking at. So a text block may have different settings than an image block and a media block, because it just makes sense that if you have an image, you can choose whether to put it left or right and so on. Let's have a look at that in just a second. So the settings here, the first one here is pretty interesting. It's display options. I can choose whether this block should be shown on a mobile device or not. Think about when your email ends up on a mobile inbox. You have a limited screen real estate. You have limited time before the email gets deleted. So you want to make sure that your most important content is in that email. So you can actually hide content from the mobile view. And if the recipient opens up the email on their desktop, on their computer, you will have the blocks visible. So you can decide which blocks are shown on a mobile and which aren't, which is pretty neat if you want to have not only responsive design, but also adaptive design, which means that the email and its content actually adapts, not only responds to the size, but also adapts the content to the viewport. There are some padding options. You can align the text left, right, and center, and you also have block colors. I'll get back to that. It's pretty neat. Let me just double click on an image block and show you that the block options up here change. So if I click this one, you'll see that some of them are the same, but in this case, you also get image position, for instance, left and right. So I can choose where I want the image to go, whether I want it to be left or right. So again, the block options change a little bit depending on what block you're looking at. Yeah, just have a look at that top section there. Then we are looking at the different fields of content that I can edit. I have the big headline up here. I have a sub headline. You can see I can click here, and then the corresponding panel opens over here. Or I can click on the panel, the text flashes to show me where I'm editing, and I can edit content here. So it's basically just editing content. Great stuff here. As you can see, typing and demoing is not my thing apparently, and so on. As soon as I click text, you will see that the text edits over here, updates over here for me to preview. If there are things I don't need, like maybe this subheadline is not really needed for this purpose, I can simply go ahead and delete it. And when I click save, the template realizes, okay, this item is now gone. So the white space that it took up will collapse and it will just be neatly gone. Same thing with the buttons down here. You can see I have link 1, that's this button. Go to website. And maybe I wanted to add one more button, read on blog or something like that. And you can see if I add an element here, it would just add another button. It will size it correctly and it will align the buttons according to my text alignment up here. So that's how you edit blocks. It's very straightforward to interact with your content there, and just click save to see it in the preview. Now, as mentioned, everywhere you have text, you also have this little guide that allows you to personalize the content. And you simply do that by saying, for instance, dear, like before, you click here, you select first name, and then the first name will go into the text here. So every recipient will have their own first name merged into the content there for better relevancy, for sense of the sender knows who I am. So that's how you can use personalization. And you can really go to town. As you can see, everything you have on the contact card, all of the custom fields you've created on the contact card, even in the new feature campaign fields, which we won't go into today, but your variables that you can add to campaigns, they can be merged in as well. So all of that is done on the personalize button up there. If there are things you don't need, as mentioned, you can just delete them. So if you think it would be neat with a text block like this without the buttons, you simply go ahead and delete the captions there, and your buttons will disappear. And that's it. You can also link from buttons, obviously, or from text. So you have the hyperlink option here. So if you wanted to say, check out the blog post, you simply highlight, click the link, and then you can link to your website, to forms you've built in eMarketeer, landing pages, and so on. It's very straightforward. Now, there's one caveat here that I want to mention about linking, and it's a mistake you don't want to do, because when you, like this, you create a text and you say like eMarketeer.com/blog, that's cool, apply. Now, this text will be linked to our blog. What some people might do is say, I want to link directly to the page here, and then type the URL into the text box. Now, don't use URLs in your text. First and foremost, it's not human language to speak URL. You will rather read, check out the blog post, the underline, and so on, clearly shows that it's a link. But more importantly, spam filters are kind of curious when you label your links with the URL, because actually, when people click this link, firstly, they will go to the eMarketeer server to have the link click tracked, and then they will go on to the blog. And spam filters realize that's what written on the caption here is not the actual link that the one clicking the link will actually go to first. So just a good practice is don't use the URLs directly as your captions, as your names for the link like this. Use natural text. It's better for the reader and it's better for for spam filters. So I just wanted to mention that. I see some questions coming on already. Please do send me your questions as we go through, and I will make sure to pick up on them as we progress here. All right. So now we have the basic stuff under the belt here. We know about the preview. We can move stuff around. We can delete blocks we don't need. We can edit content and so on. So let's have a look at adding more stuff to the email, namely going into the blog gallery where we can add content. Blocks are basically these building stones or building blocks that you create the email from. So when you click plus anywhere, let's go here and click plus, I see all of the blocks that are available to me. You can preview a block by clicking the block image. If the block image is a little bit small, just expand the edit panel over here so you get a better preview. And there are blocks for many different purposes, like barcodes, media blocks where you can include videos and slides and audio. You've got columns, you've got add to calendar blocks, you've got a signature block, and so on. So a lot of different blocks for different purposes. Again, you can modify all of these, and you can even create your own custom blocks if you need to. I'll just add a few of the ones that are kind of special and have some neat features in them, like the media block, and maybe also an add to calendar block to show you that functionality. There is a media block, and let's go ahead and add a calendar block as well. There we go. So as you can see, I click add block and the blocks are inserted underneath the selected block that I have in my preview panel there. Now, a media block is a block that can really take media from many different places. 250, I think more than 250 content sources online can be used in our media block. So let's say you wanted to include a video in your email. Now, delivering a video in an email is not pretty great because a lot of the script that goes into actually playing the video in the email will not be accepted by many email clients. So what you want to do is use the image block instead. So what that does is when I click the image here, I can paste in a URL to my content. So let's go to this blog, video and email, why not? That's pretty topical. And I want to include this video in my email. All I do is I copy the URL up here, and then I paste the URL into my video, into my content block, and the eMarketeer fetches the video from YouTube. It grabs a cover photo, sizes it correctly, adds a play button, and links to my video on YouTube. And you know, just by adding the word video and adding video images like this through email can easily increase your engagement rate with the email by 2 digits. So it's definitely worthwhile. If you have video, make sure you reuse and repurpose that email content in your email campaigns, newsletters, and so on. It's very straightforward to do. You don't need to think about the technicalities of getting the videos into your emails there. The add to calendar block may just seem like a pretty face, if you will. You can go ahead and change the date and so, of course. But the neat thing is, up in the options here, you have add to calendar functionality if you want to add this feature. So what this does is it opens up an add to calendar item that you can edit. Here you can set the date. So I'm going to say 2021, May 12th, we have a webinar. It ends on May 12th as well. May 12th, go ahead and set that, start time, so on. You get the idea. So what you basically do is you create a calendar file, or eMarketeer rather creates a calendar file. You can give it a title, a description, and everything. And when you save that, webinar of the year, description, is what's going into the calendar. You can add location if you want to. There you go, save. You can also add the icon and the caption. And now you will have an add to calendar functionality in the email. So just when people invite you through their Outlook calendar or whatnot, the email that eMarketeer is sending is now having an add to calendar functionality. So when they click this, it will open a calendar file on their computer, which will be added to their calendar. If they do it on the mobile, it will go into the mobile calendar and so on. So very easy to have that add to calendar functionality. Great for event confirmations, webinar confirmations, and so on. Just a neat feature to be able to do that there. So have a look at that blog as well. It's pretty neat. All right, so let's look at how we get the email to kind of conform to our look and feel, how we work with styles and colors and customizing the template. And that also happens on the right-hand panel over here. So as you saw when I double click, I get the content tab, but I also get a styles tab. The neat thing about going to the styles tab this way is now you have the styles, not for the entire email, but for this particular block and color palette. So it's a little bit more easy to get an overview of what's going on here. There are less things to choose from. So let's say I wanted the button there to have another background color. So button background color, maybe I wanted a reddish color like that, and save. And then the button is changed not only in this block, but in all of the other blocks that use the same color palette. That's pretty smart, because then you don't need to change each and every block. The color palette simply conforms to the changes. On the content tab, you can see block colors. You can see that this one is the main color palette. There is a transparent one as well that just sits transparently on the background. And then you have 5 different other color palettes to play around with. So let's say you wanted this article or the top article to stand out and look different from the rest. You can simply choose another color palette and save. There you go. So maybe the leading article up there, you wanted that to be a different color. You can do that by using the other color palettes. So in your email, all of your blocks can have 5 different color palettes, a transparent one, and the main color one. So imagine all of the combinations you have available now to you, editing the colors and the styles to conform to your style guide in your email design here. There we go, another color palette. And now if I edit the color palette of this block, you will see styles for this color palette, obviously. So I can change this one, and now my color palette 5 or accent 5 is going to be changed in all of the blocks where I use that color palette. Now that's pretty neat, because it will allow you to have a different look and feel for different types of article. Maybe you have a featured article design, maybe you have a sponsored articles design, maybe you have news from the blog design. You want these articles to stand out a little bit, and you can use the color palettes for that without needing to change colors all of the time. You simply change the block color choice here. So very nice. It's also a great way to have colors kind of or blocks kind of blend together in their look and feel. So let's say I add another block on top here, maybe a big media block. Add that to the preview here, and then drag that on top of this one. Now you can see there are different color palettes chosen, but if I take accent 5 on this one as well, they will kind of join and merge together, looking as one block. All right, that makes sense. So using the accents of the color palettes to blend blocks together, so it kind of looks like one block, but really works great and is mobilely responsive as well, as you would expect. They blend neatly together on the mobile design as well. So think about whether your email can go from a standard monochrome almost or 2-color setup to having more color palettes to really highlight different parts of the content there. That's something to consider at least. All right, so now we've been looking at the text and the styling. We want to look at editing images as well, because images is a huge piece of your email design. It is really what grabs attention. I read somewhere that an image conveys the same as 60,000 words in about the same time. So you can really communicate a lot of info or grab a lot of attention by using images. So obviously you want to be able to do that. Obviously, you have an image archive already that you use on your website and brochures and fact sheets and all of that stuff. And you can organize that and upload that into eMarketeer. You can edit the images there using the image editor, and you can create brand new images directly in eMarketeer using our newish email image editor. And again, this is not only for email, this is for all purposes you have in eMarketeer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this image up here, image full width, and you can see I can choose an image. So I'm just let me zoom in here. I can choose an image, I can open the image editor, and I can also add a link if people click the image. So first off, I'm going to say choose image, and just choose an image to show you what is possible here. So I'm just going to choose an image, use this one, and the image goes in. This is from my website. You can see it's very, very large. It's way too big, but eMarketeer knows that and says, hey, this is not optimal. Scale down to the recommended size. So just one click there, the image will be scaled down in a new version to the correct size in my email. It will be stored on the eMarketeer server and put into my image there. You can also let me see here. Let's choose this one again. There you go. You can see it conformed down to right size here. You can also open the image editor, and you can do stuff with the image in the editor as well. So if I go into the image editor, and maybe the resize wasn't all I wanted, I really wanted to do some cropping maybe, or add some effects there as well, I can do that. So in the image editor in eMarketeer, you have a lot of flexibility with working with your image. For instance, maybe I wanted to crop, I want to scale it down to 620 right away, and I want to focus on a detail in the image maybe. Again, I'm no designer, I'm just showing you what you can do. I'm going to go ahead and crop the image there, get a crop, and click Save and Exit. And now I'm being sent back to eMarketeer. The image editor adds the image to the right position in my email and sizes it correctly. We're good to go. So cropping and modifying your image is really, really easy using the built-in image editor. So a lot of the stuff that you would probably do in Illustrator or Photoshop around basic image editing, give that a spin in the image editor. It has a lot of punch. Now, obviously, if you don't have images, you can go ahead and source, don't have the image you need, you can go ahead and source images and buy images from Shutterstock and other sources. But you should check out the image editor's built-in image search as well. So if we go into the image editor, obviously it has my image now, but maybe I want to do something else. I want to say, I want to find my own image here. Let's look at a desk search here, and as you can see, it searches the Unsplash image archive, which has millions and millions of royalty-free images that you can use in your eMarketeer campaign. So just clicking one, and that image will be added to my workspace here. So imagine, you know, if you have a Christmas campaign, an Easter campaign, staff motivational campaign, you know, whatever it is, you have tons of images there that you can search from and use. You can also upload your own images there, of course, as you can in eMarketeer, and you can also use colors and backgrounds in the image editor here. So that's pretty cool. You can also go ahead and add shapes and stuff to your images. So let's say I wanted to add a button over here, maybe. Wanted to add a reddish button like that. I could add text as well. It will remember which text you've added or which fonts you've used. So you will build kind of a favorite font list over here. So let's say I want to add text here like book or read more, something like that. You've got the ability, obviously, to change the color of the text over here. So maybe I wanted that wide. I want to scale it way down to fit my button. You can just drag and drop things around. So really, it's a basic editor for your images where you can do a lot of the stuff that you need to do with images in your email layer. What's also nice is the icons. So you can go to graphics and you have icons over here. So a huge icon library that you can also use for your email. So let's say I wanted to add an arrow like that, position, resize. You get the idea. I restate, I'm no designer, but you can do a lot of stuff in the image editor and get quickly to a result that you need. Adding text. You can also add logos. So let's say you want to have your own watermark logos. You go to graphics, you go to upload your own, and you can go ahead and choose files from your computers. Let's say I wanted to have Avenir logo in here. You can position that, drag and drop that around, and put that into your image. So a lot of stuff that can be done here, resizing, editing, adding elements to your images. When you're good to go, you just save and exit, and everything's brought back to eMarketeer in the image space here. So definitely something to check out. Get familiar with the image editor and be aware that you can actually open the image editor from any blank image here. You can go ahead and say open image editor, and you can search for images, add new graphics from the Unsplash archives. Again, millions of copyright-free, royalty-free images there for you to choose from. And again, it always knows the correct size of where you're adding an image. So if I want, oh, sorry about that, wrong button. There we go. If I want to add an image, it knows the correct size. I don't need to worry about that. I just save and exit, and the image is automatically sized to the block, the content block that I was editing and adding an image to. Very straightforward for sure. Okay, so those are some of the basic stuff you can do with images, searching images, editing your own images. Now, talking about things that grab attention, you know, emails with images, great headlines, great subjects, everything you can do to get attention when people look at your email when they open it. But even before they open it, there are tricks up your sleeves you can use that you may not be aware of to increase the open rate and likely the engagement rate of your email. And that is what's called pre-headers. A pre-header is a piece of text that sits at the very top of your email that the preview window of the email clients will look at. So when you look at your mobile phone, you see the sender, you see the subject line, and then you see the pre-header if it's used. Or without a pre-header, typically you see something like trouble reading this email, click here to read it online or something like that. So using a pre-header really means that you can support your subject line with an important message that either encourages people to open the email or at least read it later because it was interesting. You don't have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of real estate when people look at their email in the preview window, both on the phone and also on the desktop client. You have a preview text there. You want to use a pre-header to support your subject line. Again, it can be customized, personalized, so you can really resonate with your recipient there. So let's have a look at how you do a pre-header. You simply add a block in eMarketeer, and we have a block called Preheader. So you add that and you drag it all the way to the top of your email. The smart thing about the Preheader block is that it knows whether it's being looked at in a preview or whether it's being looked at in the email client as an opened email. So this text up here will actually never show when they view the email. It will only be shown in the preview window, which is pretty neat because maybe text up here when they actually open up your email is not the best idea, but having the preview show the pre-header is a very good idea. So let's say my subject line over here was hi Klaus, hi first name. I want to have the pre-header play together with that. So it says hi Klaus. And then in the pre-header, I say, boy, do we have news for you, something like that. Maybe you can wordsmith that a lot better, but you get the idea. Now, again, this does not show when they open the email. It only shows in that preview pane when they look at their email on their mobile phone or in their desktop client without opening the email. So pre-header, very good practice to use that to make sure that you optimize the real estate you have available in the preview area. Pre-headers sitting among the blocks, just add it, drag it all the way to the top, and you're good to go. Another thing about optimizing your content is personalization, as we talked about, adding names to your content. Hi first name or company or whatever information you have. Make sure you utilize that in your content. But of course, if your content or your data on your recipients is not 100% complete, you are often left with blanks in your email text, which is no good. So you want to make sure that you use a fallback. So let's go ahead and look at one of the personalization fields I used. In this case, we put in dear first name using this guy. And you'll see that on all of the personalization fields, you have a fallback value here. So what I type in between these two brackets here will show if the first name field is empty. So dear reader, maybe. That means that I can use personalization for everybody where I have their first name on their contact card, and where I don't, it will put reader into instead. So fallback is a very nice feature that allows you to utilize personalization, even though your data is not 100% complete. So keep that in mind. Don't be afraid to use personalization. Make sure that you use a fallback value to make the text make sense, even where you have less than complete data. All right, so let's see, we are looking at the content here. We're looking at making sure that you use the pre-header and personalization. I mentioned previously this topic about responsive and adaptive. We've already touched upon it. Your templates are per default responsive in eMarketeer, which means they look good both on the tablet, mobile, and the desktop, which is great. But I want to restate the use of adaptive design, which means that it doesn't only just adapt the width or respond to the width, it also adapts the content. So adapting content is this thing about being able to hide articles or content depending on where the recipient is looking at the email. So for instance, let's put an email block up here that I want people to click on when they're on their desktop. But my research tells me that looking at a video from a mobile email view is probably not what my recipients are up to. So I want to have this email in the desktop version of the email, or the video in the desktop version of the email, but not on the mobile version. Again, just double click. In the options here, I can choose to hide the block when it's viewed on a mobile device and click save. Obviously, I can still see the block in my editor. Everything's good, but have a look what happens when I go to the mobile view. The block disappears. So I can control what is going into the email depending on what viewport, what device the recipient is checking out my email on. So think about whether that would make sense in your case to use adaptive content showing and hiding stuff depending on where people are looking at your email. Okay, let's go into, now we've got the basics down. We know how to add blocks, customize them, text them, personalize them, color them correctly with our different palettes, and use different types of media in our email. Now, let's look at some of the things that can really make your email stand out when they're received by your recipients. And we talked about some of these trends in the marketing trends webinar. I'll just pop in a link to that webinar if you are interested. It's called Email Design Trends. I'll just put that into the answers box, so you should be able to see that in just a second. There you go. There is the email design trends that we talked about in a couple of webinars ago. So if you want to have a look at that, you can do that. But I want to have a look at some of these trends that are going on, like animations and big typography in email. Now, animations is typically, or has been around for a while, but it's really being adopted by email designers now to make emails spring to life. And you may not be aware that eMarketeer fully supports animated GIFs and APNGs in your email design. So if either you're buying animated GIFs or animated images, or you can design them yourself or create them yourself. Just be aware that they can absolutely be used in eMarketeer. So let's have a look at my images here. Demo images, I think I created, where did I put it? Oh, in the animations folder, of course. So you can add animated GIFs to your email design, and they will run nicely on the email. Now, I thought that was kind of on topic with the Oscars going on. Think about how you can use animations to make your content really pop. It's pretty easy to buy or source animations. It's pretty easy to do animations as well. There are some nice tools to resize and control the speeds of your animations and so on. And you can have file sizes like this one is probably less than 2 megabytes. It's perfectly fine to send sizes like that in your email. There's another example here. Choose image. I'm gonna take this one. Go ahead and add that one, and you can kind of maybe drag that to the top of your email and have some kind of fun with that. So just think about how animations can make your message really pop when you are working with emails, and know that animations work perfectly fine in eMarketeer. There are a few things to keep in mind when you're working with animated GIFs or animated PNGs. One thing is the sizing needs to be correct. The auto sizing feature in eMarketeer will not work on animations, so the animation you put in needs to be the correct size. Now, I found a really neat tool if you're not like me, not really versatile in being able to create these things. If you have an animation that's the wrong size, there's something called easygif.com. You can resize the animation and it will look absolutely beautiful in the correct sizes that you want to go for. So that's the tool that you could be looking at to resize any sourced animations you use there. So that is one thing that I want to highlight is think about animations. It absolutely works beautifully in eMarketeer. Another trend we talked about is big typography, like huge fonts in emails that really grab attention at the top of the email. It's a design trend we've seen quite a lot, and it's something that is really happening in a lot of places. This was one of the examples I used in the email design trends. Have a look at how big that font is in this email campaign for Photoshop, an email campaign for them. So that was one thing you can do. And questions came up: how would you go about doing that in eMarketeer? And absolutely, you can do that. And I would go ahead and use the image editor. So let me just grab this block here and delete this one, and then add a new image block, full width, and I can show you how you could go about using big typography and creating that yourself directly in the image editor, merging it into your campaign. So I want to have huge typography up here when my email opens that really grabs attention, and then I want to have it kind of float into the rest of the content that I'm doing here. So firstly, I'm going to grab the background color for this color palette because I want that background color to also be in my image. So I'm going to just copy the color code for this block underneath, and then I'm going into the image block here and into the image editor. Opening the image editor here will give me a perfectly sized canvas that I can start working on. It's 620 width like my template, and I can do some stuff here. I want to make this way bigger height-wise. So now it's 620 by 900 pixels. I want to do something about the background color. I want to take the background color from my blog. So now I have that. And then I want to add some text. Big words grab your focus, something like that. Okay, that's not really huge yet, but of course you can go ahead and just go bananas and resize this to your canvas that is now 900 pixels long. You can play around with the line height here if you want to make it a little bit more condensed, letter spacing, opacity, all of that stuff that you would be familiar with from an editor. You can do all of that stuff here. So very quickly, and again, you have tons of fonts. When you go into text, you have tons of, you can look at all of the different fonts you have up here. Just lots of fonts to choose from when you play around with this big typography. So I'm just going to go ahead with this one, click save and edit, and it's brought back to the editor. The background color should align nicely with the content block I have underneath, and I have huge typography in my email there as it opens. So imagine in the preview window, maybe you would only see the first top part here, the rest would be below the fold, but it's really an email trend that is on the rise. So it's maybe something you want to play around with for specific campaigns or specific messages there. So I just wanted to make sure that we had talked about that in our when you're working with your emails and what you can do with the image editor, because it's a pretty cool new thing there. Okay, we are closing in on the hour, and I've got a little extra bonus stuff for you that I think you are not aware that you can do with different tools in eMarketeer. So I just wanted to highlight some of that stuff. Now, we've talked about animations, we've talked about the big words, the big typography here, but there are other things that are pretty interesting that you can do in eMarketeer. For instance, adding some interactivity or sense of urgency to your emails is also possible. Now, there are many different tools to use that. The trick here is you can easily employ these in eMarketeer. So for instance, I've used a tool called Nifty Images, which has a free version and a paid version. It's not the only one, there are many others, but I just wanted to show you that you can do different things and you can bring that into eMarketeer. So in this case, I've created a countdown for the next webinar. It's in 13 days, 43 minutes and some seconds. And it's very easily done. In this case, in Nifty Images, I just set some dates and choose some colors. I'm logged out, I'm gonna log back in. Here we are, where did it go? Time to next webinar, it was this one. So basically this is, we don't have any affiliation with Nifty Images. It is just an idea. All of these different tools out there, maybe there's stuff you can use. The cool thing is I can take the image I've created here. I can take my image from Nifty, just copy the URL in eMarketeer, select my image, and in the image URL, simply paste the image into the Nifty image with the countdown, choose an accent that matches maybe, and now I have a countdown timer in my email, which will count down from the relevant time when they get my email and open it. So again, not a built-in eMarketeer feature, but the eMarketeer image capabilities and template capabilities are just open to a lot of different content that you may not think about when you're working with emails. Something that's also been asked about a lot is personalizing images. So if, for instance, I've created an image here that has this you're a winner message, and you can kind of type in a name. Obviously, you can't do all of your images for all of your recipients, but eMarketeer can help you out here. So in this case, I can grab an image tag. And as you can see at the very end here, there's a merge tag, and I'm going to use the eMarketeer personalization to make this image dynamic so that every recipient gets their own image with their own name in it. So what I'm going to do is, again, in the image box, add the URL, and then I'm just going to grab my text here where I have dear first name, and then copy the merge tag. So I'm basically just copying the merge tag and then adding that to the URL over here. Let me see if I can zoom in. So you've got name equals merge tag, and I can put in an eMarketeer merge tag. So now you're a winner and the first name will be merged in for every recipient that receives this email. The image will be created on the fly and put into eMarketeer. So there are a lot of different things you can do that you may not be aware of straight from the get-go when you're working with images in eMarketeer. The image editor is a whole bunch of features and capabilities with around creating and finding images, and the image template blocks can also accept media from many different sources, also even dynamic images like countdowns and personalized images. All right, so I hope that this was useful and had some inspiration for you guys. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.